Okay, I'm going to showcase a number of projects that I've been involved in as a curator and as a researcher, mostly involving sound, but also involving different ways of working with what I call transdisciplinary domains, and also, of course, this thing about experience. I don't speak, so there will be no noise. If I speak, there will be noise. I'm sorry, I hope you will endure this. I will not speak so much to the arguments of the actual paper, because that will be too massive, I think. I will primarily speak from the practice and the showcasing of the actual projects. And also just to make it clear that I'm working with media art, experimental media art. So I might be slightly talking into other contexts, but also I think there is some shared ground with what I've heard so far at this conference. But of course there is that content matter which varies somewhat, especially in the elements of archival material. And I'm also working as a creator. I've been working professionally in the museum world for 10 years, but now I'm associate professor in interactive media at the University of Aalborg in Denmark. So I'm starting my talk with actually this notion from Arnhem about a new practice, which is from 1969, so it's just interesting to revisit this notion that a new practice, as it says, emerged in the latter half of the 20th century, a practice which sees visual perception as, and I quote, not a passive recording of stimulus material, but an active concern of the mind, which means in this notion that perception involves problem solving. So according to Arnhem, this interrelates with the function, the method, and the role of both the scientist and the artist, and of course the curator as well. So my focus here is really about redesigning the notion that you can take, working with archive, you're kind of always facing this situation of some kind of restaging, redesigning, revisiting things that used to be had some kind of ontology in the past, but now we need to find out what to do with it in the present and in the future as well, as a presentation situation in the museum. So redesign is really about to make a revision in the appearance or function of an existing design. You might say design here is a very broad sense. It's not only car design or design of a museum, it's also the way that we actually combine and organize things. So it's also about combining two sources into something third, which is a new position here, very crudely marked out. And the redesign, in effect, is a conceptual blend of domains. That argument I'm not going to talk more about today, but show you some of the ideas or some of the concrete things coming out of that. Something that was not there before is added by the redesign. So where does listening come into this? I mean, I'm sure we all agree that this noise is really irritating, and actually we would prefer it not being there. And so the interesting thing about noise and sound is actually that we are using it as part of a perception, it's part of a system of perception, but we are mostly not able to organize it and navigate with it as well as we are with our visual perception system inputs. So there is this notion that I'm just presenting to you that the sonic system is actually part of our total perception system, which is generally understood, I would say, and also that there is this difference between listening and hearing. I'm presenting here listening as a generative situation, which is theorists like Salome Voegelin and Van Eed has written about this phenomenology of listening that operates within sonic systems. So it's something that speaks to a deeper level of perception, a deeper level of experience, whereas hearing is a conventional situation where sound is subservient to image and visual cognition. So what I'm speaking to here is really listening and the notion that you could, through sound, actually create a deeper and more immersive experience situation, and involve this in the problem solving that Arnhem was speaking to before. So I'm going to showcase a few projects that I've been involved in. The first one is actually quite old. It started in 2004 and was an attempt to create a media art platform, a physical mapping of a digital archive, and in the process also trying to renegotiate what is actually the museum in this setup. And also I'm showcasing some things from the exhibition, a section I curated for the exhibition, Sound Art exhibition in ZKM 2012, called The Unheard Avant-Garde. And I also have a glimpse from a third project which is on now in Aarhus. So I'm working from this principle that the world is not a desktop. And this is from Mark Weiser, from the Computer for the 21st Century. He's saying we're trying to conceive a new way of thinking about computers in the world, one that takes into account the natural human environment that allows the computers themselves to vanish into the background. So I was thinking that the museum is not a desktop, and we have had a number of talks today and yesterday speaking to that very fact. So this is coming into that, I'd say that this stream of thought coming out of that notion of that taking the museum beyond the very technical notion of the computer and desktop. So asking some key design questions was really about why not use the physical space of the museum as interface instead of desktops? Why not make a tangible embodied audience experience of the archive? Why not use listening to generate both individual and shared collective experiences? And this is a very important point, to actually have both elements there, and listening can give you that. It's both a very individual, but also something that can create very shared, very collective experiences. So why not create a digital archive experience? And this is what we did in the first project, the Media Art Platform. It's been also documented in a book called Reaction. The digital archive experience came out in 2009. And one of the projects there, we had a number of projects, and it would be too much to come into all of them, but that was the audio bar, which was finished in 2006. And I'm just going to show you a glimpse of no, it's thinking. Froze actually. So now I have two hands, which is interesting. Wow. Sorry. Well, just a second. Just a second, sorry. Go. Take it directly on the internet. I'm moving it into your. Let's see if this works. Take it from the top. The audio bar is a responsive interface to access a huge collection of sound art, which was present at the museum I used to work at, Museum of Contemporary Art in Roskilde, Denmark. And what we used were these bottles, as you can see, and each bottle were representing a certain kind of, I don't have internet apparently, so I only have this that I downloaded before. It's representing an indexing, an attempt to index this collection of sound art. What you do then is there's an RFID tag in the bottom of the bottle, and when you place it on the table bar, you then get a new search from the information embedded in the RFID tag. And the information embedded in that tag is actually a game of how to describe sound, which is actually not that easy. Sorry, I forgot to speak of this. And so we wanted to play with the fact that we have different ways of experiencing sound, and thus we also have different kinds of languages for it. So we put that on the bottles, and you can then choose, for instance, very noisy, very low, very humanoid, very machine-like, and then when you put it on the table, you effectively search for something which is nearest to that category. So the point here was, of course, to create a responsive design, a collective situation for interfacing a collection of, in this instance, sound art, which also created a situation where you can actually both share experiences with this listening situation, like you see these children are doing. It was very broad. It turned out to be very easy to work with for all kinds of age groups and all kinds of no matter what kind of background you had, actually, in terms of art understanding, everybody was suddenly listening to this. It could be experimental sound art from the 30s, German sound art from the 30s. It could be this piece that I just began this presentation playing, Else Marie Peder's Danish electronic musician. There is, and it's still active, it's still in Roskilde, there is 3,600 separate artworks in the database there that you can go through this way, this tangible way. So, just to proceed quickly, this other project from the Unheard Avant-Garde section of the Sound Art exhibition at Karlsruhe ZKM was also addressing the notion of archive sound in archives, but from a different angle. In this particular case, I was working with an event from 1965, which took place in 1965 in Copenhagen, and then it disappeared completely from the archives. It was gone. And I tend to immerse myself into these kinds of completely problematic situations where I have to find something which is not there. So what we did was to go really looking with a team, looking for these unheard avant-gardes in the private archives of different kinds of artists and also old radio producers. And we found this on these old tape reels, old magnetic tapes. So we wanted to create an installation and a responsive design that visually was playing at this idea of the tape, the audio tape, but gave you as an audience the possibility to go through this collection and actually experience it on your own, and also give an example of this exploration which went before it. So what we did was to create an interface where you can actively listen to the sound tracks which are in the database. And this was only from this one event in 1965. What we found was that there were 5 different levels of sound production going on in this event, and a lot of other things as well. And there was fluxes, there was beat, which was the lowest. So what you can do is to put your headphones on, and you listen with this, and you can actually go exploring through the archive while listening actively to the different tracks. You also get the metadata, the information while you're listening, so you can actually read and see what you're listening about. Now we're going a little amok here because we were showcasing also that you can actually use this as an instrument in itself. And this, this is perhaps more visible here, which is just a crazy version of how you can actually, in real time, go through the whole archive, like you can also that way. I mean, this was not a normal audience situation, but it's just to showcase that it could be done. The technology behind this is really the team that did this was a combination of programmers and visual designers and me as a curator, but also the one actually finding all this stuff. And we were like in the media platform project as well, kind of making a team of this redesign process where all ideas were on the table and we were working in this way to create these interfaces. And just to push on, because time is, I just want to showcase our latest notion, and this will be, I'm afraid, a little bit showing myself here. This is an anti-reenactment that we just did for Postal Oaks. For the Systemics 4. Using a telephone, as you will see. Welcome to the Showcase and installation, which is basically an interface operating from this telephone. It's an old-fashioned turntable telephone. And the idea is that you can dial, so to speak, history, the avant-garde, the historical avant-garde, using this telephone. And first of all, it's perhaps a bit of a stretch to call it an artwork in itself. It's a homage to a series of artworks that Showcase did in the end-60s, and as such, it's actually more like a carousel of what is left of what they did than an actual artwork. And Showcase is the group from 68 to 71 that created a number of live events. They called them anti-happenings. And so we are actually anti-reenacting those anti-happenings through this telephone. I will try and lift the telephone now. Okay, so we will actually not see the actual interface, what is happening, but what is happening is that through this telephone, you can actually dial yourself through different elements of this archive, both in sound and in what we chose to be analog technology, the slides technology that was very much used in the 60s, so also trying to maintain a kind of a level of authenticity, at least as an image of authenticity there. But it was, the biggest problem here was to make digital technology and programming work together with these analog machines, not least to prevent these machines to break down, because after all they were quite old. So I have a whole machine park at home now that we had 6 machines breaking down when we were attempting to create this installation. So we were pretty sure that they were actually working when we came to Aarhus, but still that's a risk. But I think aesthetically that was a choice that we needed this analog technology to go together with the digital technology as well. So these are the final kind of summing up ideas of the museum as a stage for transdisciplinary action. the idea to organize transdisciplinary projects, engaging mapping between different domains of knowledge and skills, invite different competencies to work together towards design solution, renegotiate actively the habitual roles of audience, artists, designers, programmers, curators. I didn't speak much about that, but this goes with the territory. You have to go out, you have to leave your own roles and work in different ways. That's part of the whole landscape. Activate implied producer. I didn't go much into that. I do that in the paper. But the idea that producers, that audiences are actually implied producers is a very important notion in my paper and in my work. Use the physical space and object as interfaces. Responsive interaction. Point towards alternative histories, private or hidden. And this is especially interesting. I think that you have this ability to actually work with different layers. You can also call them metaphors or ways of telling stories. And, well, redesign, I've misspelled it, but anyway, it's maybe the sound more than the actual word. Redesign the way we listen into a generative situation of experience is my point. So, as a final thank you, I would just point out that actually together with University of Lodz and also Blue Danube University in Austria, Trans City University in Hong Kong, we are about to enter upon an international Erasmus Joint Master, Media Arts Cultures, and there are deadlines until 1st of January, so it's together with Richard Luchensky, as a matter of fact. Just wanted to point that out to you, so thank you, that was all for me.